About 10 or 15,000 on the contract.
Because I remember the amount.
But it really depends.
Oh,
I'm only
Recording
asking-
in progress.
Rock and roll.
Let's go. Good evening. Welcome to the Protection Policy Committee for Monday, September 11th, 2023. It is now 6 p.m. Roll call. Alder Morgan.
Present.
Alder Scannell.
Here.
You're here.
Yes.
And I'm here. We're all here. Take a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Take a motion for approval of the minutes for August 14th.
I approve the minutes of August 14th. I move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Ready?
Yep.
Okay, on to regular business. Take a motion to take items 1 through 4 with one roll call vote.
Do we have to suspend the rules to do that?
Yeah, suspend the rules.
Yeah, motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it.
Motion to take 1 through 4 in one vote.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nay? Ayes have it. On to number 5. Consideration with possible action on the application for a Class B liquor, Class B beer license for the Taste of the South on Wheels LLC at 114 South Broadway with the license premise description as behind bar and kitchen and basement. This was filed,
Yeah, this was filed on June
okay,
30th.
June 30th, and previously licensed as Green Bay Dragon, or Green Dragon, during the 2022-23 license year, subject to the approval of the proper authorities. Attorney?
And actually, I'm just gonna start off with a little recap on this. So this license is in the Broadway moratorium, and that is attached into the agenda packet. And then we also want to notate that whatever the decision is today, prior to issuing the license, we would just need to take a look at the seller's permit prior to issuing. That's all the clerk's office has.
Yeah, we defer to PD for the remainder as they provided last time.
Okay, we're recommending denial of this license for a couple of reasons. In the past, Ms. Bowie and her partner, Mr. Morrow, have had a license in our city, and we have had violations. In November of 18, they were verbally warned for being open after hours. November 17th of 2018, we again observed patrons inside the bar. We gave Ms. Bowie a verbal warning. They were less than cooperative and argumentative with the officers. Then on November 28, 2018, we cited Ms. Bowie for violation of the stipulation agreement as she did not provide video surveillance as requested. Then they were out of the business for a while. Then January this year, they had a food truck over roughly where they want the bar in the parking lot next to it. They were trying to use the actual liquor license, and by being a bar owner before, they advertised all you could drink specials, which was a violation of the stipulation agreement, which was the same one that they signed when they did own the bar previous over on Main Street. And also, I know they originally wanted 70% food, 30% alcohol. I reached out to the health department. They currently do not have a license for their food truck. They cannot serve food out of their food truck. So being in the moratorium and not being able to serve food, we don't think that they should have the license.
Oh, and I should mention, there was a follow-up email that they decided to change their business plan to have 70% alcohol and 30% food.
Any questions?
Not for the PD, not at the moment.
Okay,
Pretty clear cut there.
thank you. Take a motion to open the floor.
Motion to open the floor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? All right, ayes have it. You can come on up here. If you could state your name and your address for the record, please.
Sarai Bowie, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
54304. So I am the license holder. I don't have any partners or anything like that. And that's just my boyfriend. He always helped me in the business. On the event where it was where there were people in the bar after hours, the business was not open. The lights were off. We were in the business, but it was me and my children. My son got married that day. And they were out at a different bar and came there because we were still there. So it wasn't anybody besides me, Lance, and our kids. And then the other incident, what was the other one?
He said,
I'm sorry.
He said on the 18th, he said 17, 18, and 19.
Yes, that was the same thing, and they mailed
And then
the,
he said downtown with the $20 all you can drink.
oh yeah, so I was a bartender for the Green Dragon as a part of trying to work with the Green Dragon in order so that they can have food inside of their bar. So I was a bartender and I posted the all you can drink. I was a partner with Taiwan, the egg roll food truck owner at that point. And I didn't realize I couldn't say all you can drink, to be honest. So that was a one-time thing. The other thing was a one-time thing. And I will be more careful with those type of stipulations in the future, but it's not something that was a reoccurring thing. And any type of issue that the police had that night, it's just, we just didn't understand what we were doing wrong. And so we just like, what do you mean we doing this? We not open and this just our kids. And then they explained and they said, okay. You know, it took a little back and forth because we were enjoying ourselves and they interrupted our enjoyment.
What about the refusal for video surveillance tape?
Well, yeah, the video surveillance wasn't going on because we was closed. We wasn't open at that time. That what they started surveilling
It was
us.
for that
That was the same.
incident?
Yes.
Was that the same instance?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that's the
requested
same
the video
business.
for the November, when they were people in their after hours, we requested the
Ah.
video and they refused to provide it.
Ah. Did you let them know you didn't have any?
Yeah, I told
Oh,
them.
that, okay.
So that all happened in 2018?
Yes.
Yes, 2018, and I
The other
believe
one.
sometime
With the food
into
truck and
pre-COVID or right around the beginning, I don't know when their former establishments, I don't know when you
Homemade
shut
Southern
down.
Cuisine shut down in September 2019.
And you want, your plan going forward is to serve 30% food?
Yes, because we'll be doing food off the truck. We just want a place for people to, we want food for people to eat when they come into the bar.
Do you have your license through the county?
No, I don't, because I have the food truck, the license that I have for the county, I can't use ongoing now since I have a new base. So that's why I haven't did anything else with that yet, because I didn't even have the liquor license that I already paid for. Then I have to pay for that, and then I'll be paying for, just paying for a bunch of things over again. I'll just pay for I pay for the health department license June 30th, but then I have to pay again to have this base inspected, to have a license there.
I believe Lieutenant Mahoney has something to.
I spoke with the health department. They advised me it's illegal to have food out of a food truck to bring inside to a building. If you have food out of a food truck, it must be served through that window, and only that window. That you can't bring it into an establishment and then start serving it inside there. I just got off the phone with the health department about 5 o'clock this afternoon, and they don't have any type of license for their food truck at all. And they know of no home base. I don't know where, they haven't
Well,
reached back
that's-
out to the health department.
Right.
They've tried to get in contact with you, according to
Yeah.
them, to know where the home base, but they cannot serve food, according to the Brown County Health Department, from the truck, bringing the food inside the restaurant. That's
So it wouldn't
illegal.
be us bringing food, people will order from the food truck and eat inside the restaurant as they can eat inside of any other bars on the street.
Yeah, I mean, in the food issue is really, it's kind of a separate issue. It just goes to the fact that there's not an exception from the moratorium for it being a restaurant. That's
Right.
the issue with the food service. We aren't
Right.
regulating food service here.
Right,
It's just the
but,
point that it doesn't meet the requirements for the exception to the moratorium for more liquor licenses, because restaurants would be exempt.
right, and at
That's the point.
30% food, you're not considered a restaurant.
Right.
That's what the problem is with the moratorium, is, I don't know what the percent, you need to at least be, what percentage for food for the,
I think it's been viewed as more food than alcohol.
To
so
be a restaurant.
51 to 49?
I think that's how it's been interpreted, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But I think the point of Lieutenant Mahoney is we have no confirmation of any authorization to serve food from the county's perspective.
Okay.
And Mr. Mahoney, the, like I stated before, the reason why I don't have the health department license is because I have to have the new base inspected. My mom passed away August 3rd and I just haven't got there yet, but.
You know, when I talk to the health department, I'm pretty sure they understand that, but even the former base, that's why you lost your food truck license, because it was at House Divided, and they reached out to House Divided and said they didn't see you for a couple of years. So, is that used to be your base?
That used to be my base, yeah.
Yeah, and I believe that's why you lost your food truck license.
No, this because I was opening up a new spot.
Oh,
And
okay,
so I needed
well,
to have
I'm
a
just
truck.
basing on what the health inspector told me, that they pulled your food truck license, or your health department, whatever they call it.
I didn't bring
or-
that paperwork with me, but I have paperwork, but that's not the reason.
Okay, well, I know they placarded your truck saying that
Yeah.
you couldn't operate
Yeah,
because you.
because I didn't have a base.
Yes.
In the base, we've been renting the space that we're at since the 1st of July, but we just haven't had it inspected yet because we was waiting for.
Well,
the
I'm just
liquor
basing it on
license.
what the inspector told me.
Yeah.
You haven't reached out and said, here's where we're gonna have our base.
Yeah, I
So
spoke with
according-
them already, and I have emails,
They,
text messages.
they haven't heard from you since you turned in your application. That's what I was told this
It's on the
afternoon.
phone. We got emails on the phone. We have emails from the health department, already stipulating that we stand in contact with them.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get too much in the weeds on that, because unfortunately, it still doesn't, even if it all works out for you, you're still at 30/70, which still doesn't get you over the threshold for the moratorium.
Moratorium to alcohol?
Yes, it's we've got several more, three, I think, moratoriums in the city, areas that have been designated as you need for new licensings. There's places that were grandfathered in, but for new licenses, you have to be a restaurant in order to get a liquor license, which means your business plan has to be 51% food at least.
But he's telling us that we wasn't, when we said we were 70% food, they said that we wasn't selling enough
They said that they don't think that we can sell enough food.
food, they
The
said
last time.
alcohol. Everything we do, they reversing it. That's what the original was saying. So we thought that we couldn't do it that way because of whatever you just said. And so we went to the city to try to get it the other way.
So your business plan was originally 70% food?
Yes, it was 70/30.
Yeah, 70/30.
But that was to be sold out of this food truck?
Yeah, because that's what we was doing for years.
What this moratorium more or less says is there's only so many taverns allowed in the Broadway district. And if you do it as 70% restaurant, you would have to have a kitchen in your establishment. You'd have to pass all the health codes for a restaurant and all that.
But it already had been passed because the Green Dragon already had went through these process already. So we know it for a fact because she was already working for the Green Dragon.
So are you telling us that you could run this at 70% now
Well,
without
we
using your
did-
food truck?
He said 50%,
No.
51%,
No.
and 49%.
See,
That's
that's
the
why
thing.
you can't pass
So
the
it's-
moratorium. You cannot do it without,
It's got to be in the
Brick and mortar.
in the building.
yeah, you can't count that food truck. It's got to be, your building has to be able to do
Yeah, because what happens if
51% of your
truck
business as a
goes away? I
restaurant.
mean, you can't.
So what happened with the, when Peppers was there? She was also,
That's why she got shut down too.
I could clarify
Lieutenant?
that through the health department, because I asked that exact same
Yeah.
question. According to the health department, since Peppers, that building was owned by the same people that own the Green Dragon, you're allowed to wholesale food from your one business to the other, because the Green Dragon, right at the corner of Broadway and Walnut, had a restaurant license. So according to the health department, if you have a building, you could wholesale your food from one building to the other building. That's why they were able to serve food in that second one, according to the health department, because they were wholesaling it from one to the other.
Well, no, that's not what he asked, but Green Dragon they wasn't selling food in there, that's why they asked us to use our food truck. It was Peppers, he was asking why didn't Peppers, they never had, they had this small equipment, they didn't have any industrial equipment, so like how were they selling food? and why.
I-
That's what he
I'll
was
be
asking.
honest, I didn't realize they were selling food.
Oh, yeah, I think they got shut down for selling
No,
food.
they did. I don't think that's what they asked for now.
Yeah. Well, right now,
Do you have any recommendations for us?
yeah, if you could, is it possible for your business plan to remodel that store or something? I mean, that building something to make, instead of going serving to the food truck?
I'll look
to
into
serve?
it with Ricky, but from my understanding, it needs to have a hood inside. And then she'll have to do some significant work outside the building in order to make that
That
work.
work.
So that's why the food
Pretty
truck was the
expensive.
option.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what have you been doing for the past 4 years?
For working, I work, well, I haven't worked since August 3rd, but before that, I've been working at the Golden Basket, waiting tables, and I've been working the food truck and worked at Margarita's Green Bay within the last 4 years.
Just curiosity.
Can I say this? Yeah.
Any other questions?
Sir, did you have anything you wanted to say? If you do, come on up here and give us your name and your street address.
My name is Lance Morrow, and I stay 1311 Liberty Street. I came to Green Bay almost 20 years ago, and you know, we thought it was a dream come true because we never experienced something like this. But I've been picked on a lot. I mean, unbelievable what I went through. That's why the police department really don't like Sarai. It's not because of Sarai, it's because of me. Disorderly conducts, obstruction, all kind of stuff. I never had one in my life before I came here. None of this stuff. And so we took it, we just kept going. I opened a restaurant in my name, they attacked me. They come, all this stuff, all these rules and laws. We get it straightened out, then the health department. So we went through levels and levels, so we stopped. That was the first restaurant. So we get a next restaurant, we get alleyways. We're doing good. Green Bay somehow get involved with the one alleyway. So we go to another one. We don't give up. We continue it. So we get another one. So at this time, I'm going through all the stuff I'm not used to. It's kind of nobody taking it. So I'm drinking and stuff. And so we continue. So we get another one on Main Street. And she's not never getting in trouble. So they coming after me, which I think I got in trouble as a kid, but I'm 52 years old. I don't have nothing but what they do to me here. I don't do this stuff. So who do we go to? So my mom told me to get the FBI, but we shouldn't have to get the FBI involved. We should be able to establish, we part of the community, we here. We've been there 20 years, we pay taxes, we work. We're not messing up the neighborhood. We participating. We've been having food trucks and participating in the farmers market since 2005. We was with Ray Salters. We never got any tickets, and we've been doing this. So when our characters being at stake now, and the police department, all these guys, we doing everything we was told to do. If they asked us before to help to see can we get the establishment fixed, we would have did it. The police that came to the establishment, he said, y'all should be able to get it easy. Y'all ain't did nothing. We got one ticket in a bar getting people was getting shot at bars. We never been on probation for our liquor license. We never had our liquor license taken. So for us to sit here and him say to deny us for the reason he's saying, you know, it's hard for us to take because what do? If we can't be part of the community, that means we outcast. But after 20 years, I figured you guys would know that we love it here. We participate, we're not breaking any laws. Sure, I get into, because I talk the way I talk, and you know, I know the officers, they have fraternity, and their main job is to win the conversation and go home safe. I get it, because a lot of my brothers and friends are police, so I understand that. But sometimes I'm a talker. When I'm not doing anything wrong, I talk up for myself. And sometimes I get to guys the wrong way. So, but for Sherrod to be denied because they don't like me, you know, that's because my name ain't no nothing. But they keep throwing me in the boat. I went for the food truck license, you know, and they denied me right away. And they're like, how did they deny you for a food truck license? I had restaurants in my name, so they denied me right away. And so me being nervous about it, not knowing that, you know, my one felony in Chicago, I'm getting expunged now. It was in 1993. I never been juvenile, nothing. That was my only record I've had in my life. So I put it in her name. But we was doing this all the time. It wasn't a problem until I put my name back on it. And so this is not against the Rob, this is against me. That's why I came, because they saying partners. My name ain't on the liquor license, my name ain't on nothing. I've just been helping her, you know, as a friend. That's what people do, they help each other. She had my back. I work now, I'm making $100,000 a year. I work for Kettle Cuisine, you know, I'm doing well. But I don't want to, that's why I can't left work to become a supervisor, because I don't want her to be denied because they don't like me. So I'm gonna tell you what the truth about the situation. Because we wasn't, all the stuff they saying now, they didn't say this when they came and sat down with Sharaf. Because she would have knew what she had to do to go forward. With the base, we had to hold on for the base because we didn't know what was going on with the liquor license in the process. So they finally came and told us that once we get the base inspected, that we can have the base. We still can have the property, we just wouldn't be able to sell liquor, so we can have the base. That wasn't a big deal. We were just trying to wait until this process was dealt with. And so that's why we hold it off. And so that's why I came. I didn't come to hold you guys up, but you need to know this because we've been here 20 years of our life, you know. And we didn't come here as kids. We came here as adults. So what I used to do would have been what I did. I've never been this with a company in my life till I got here. I never had a instructor, officer, nothing. And it's not with citizens, it's the police department. How do I get in the police department without a crime being committed? You know, I just don't get it, but I try to accept it. I don't know what to do. Do I need to run for office? I mean, something got to happen because they ignoring the children. Everybody know me because I'm a good guy. I help. I don't lie. I don't steal. They can't. If you look at my record, I ain't did nothing.
Excuse me, sir, I hate to interrupt you,
Yes,
but we
sir.
only are supposed to allow 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, sir.
So if you have something you want to finish with,
I
bring
just
back to the
want
point
you
of
guys to
the
know
license
we've
itself.
been part of the community. We've been to the farmers market every year since 2005. Sometimes we wasn't the main focus, but we come in as a temp when they need us. You know, the food truck, and we just going through this problem because we was holding on. We have money to get this stuff. We just wanted to know what we needed to do. Because just being denied because we didn't know we had to do none of this stuff. They just not telling us now. So that's all I had to say. Thank you guys for the time.
Okay, thanks. And, you know, this is the process. I mean, the denial is basically the moratorium is the problem. Everything else is due process. They want us to give us the full record. See? So, but the real crux of the problem is not the record. I mean, we heard your side, and a lot of that makes sense, and I'm not, you know, it's the moratorium is a binding law that we passed, and the plan won't fit. So, I mean, and your record has never been, I didn't even know any of this about you. I mean,
But they know.
But
They know, and that's why my name is on stuff.
But it was not part of anything that we had to consider for your license.
Yeah, but when he
And
said-
we're not considering it. It's not part of the equation.
Yeah, that's how do we get the criteria for the moratorium?
Do you have information on?
Yeah, it's in the agenda packet.
Mhm.
Do you have your phone with you? I can
I do.
kind of walk you through that.
Okay.
Make a motion to close.
All right, do I have a second?
Yeah, I don't think I have any other questions. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it.
Yeah.
There's no opposed. Comments?
Yeah, I think, well, go ahead.
I guess I'd like to say, yeah, I don't think any of us are, we don't know you, I've
Yes,
never
sir.
met you. So I don't think any of us are taking this as anything personal against you.
No,
It's
no.
just that the city has laws.
Yeah.
A moratorium is like a law. And you, at
It
this
is.
point, you cannot pass what the law says you have to pass. So if you can go back home and figure out how you can budget to get your kitchen set up and you can get over that 51% somehow and reapply, we'd gladly listen again.
So how long do we have before you make the final decision?
Well, I'm gonna vote no just because there's no way you can legally pass this. So I'll be voting no if all.
But that
if a
doesn't mean you
majority-
can't come back.
Right.
Actually, there is a caveat of that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the former owner did not file an application for the 2022, 2020, or the 2023, 2024 license year. And as a license holder, you're allowed to take action up until June 30th with your license. So what they did is they surrendered on June 30th. So what happens if you were to deny today, that is, we have to make sure that they're allowed to appeal. But ultimately, this license is going to go into the pool and is not to the building anymore.
Right, but when it's in the pool, they can still
It's
come back and
based
try.
off of a first come, first served basis.
Yeah, with the,
Yep.
yeah.
But could we hold this for 30 to 60 days?
Well, they still got their appeal, so that holds
This
it.
is not, so, I'm sorry, what are you all, what are you thinking
No,
about recommending?
Could we hold this for 30 to 60 days before we make a decision?
And not have that license surrendered?
But is that even feasible?
No, so there's a license that's been applied for, so it's on hold for them while a decision is made. I don't think we can hold it indefinitely. I don't know why we would. You're saying you would want to hold it so they could find out if they could become a restaurant? Yeah, I think we have to decide on, based on the information we have now. Because if we hold it, without granting it. So if you grant it, we have a period of time to issue it. If it's not granted, there's no time period in Chapter 4 that allows us to hold a license for someone.
And we can't grant it and take it. Once it's granted, and then, right, we can't.
Well, right,
We
as
can't
long
put
as they meet all
conditions
the
on it.
requirements of issuing it, right?
Right.
Which issuing would be like the Department of Revenue item we mentioned, but yes.
Yeah.
Grant, then there's a period of time where it has to be issued or it would be inoperable. Yeah.
What about the appeal process? Will that still be holding it?
You'd still have the appeal process, so you
can't
would,
get a license, wait until we appeal to.
you could appeal our decision tonight,
Yes, sir.
and then, everything goes to council.
Mhm.
So you would put in your, if you put in your appeal,
No,
Appeal comes
we
back
would be
to
the
us.
final say?
no, we shouldn't talk about an appeal at this point.
Oh.
Because there's, yeah. so-
You could talk to staff about the process of the appeal.
Yes. There would be a council, so final decision is made by council, the next meeting is on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
After that, it's a final decision, and there would be a notification from the clerk's office on next steps regarding your license.
And is that Tuesday the 19th?
It is Tuesday.
We just gotta see if we get the kitchen. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we make enough money, it's just Ricky wanna, cut a building and do the floors,
I wish you the best. But,
Okay,
I make a motion that we deny this request because it cannot pass the Broadway moratorium.
okay, do I have a
second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Okay, this is a recommendation to the common council for next week, Tuesday, the 19th.
Y'all might see me run for mayor, man. I don't think I can win, but you'll see.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All set?
Yep.
Okay.
Motion to suspend the rules and take up all the next three to refer to staff? I'm only kidding.
At once.
Go ahead.
All right, number 6, request by Alder Weary from update with possible action on rat complaints and inspection actions taken by the city. The previous purchased rat traps have been fully depleted. Should resources go towards purchasing more to help combat this community-wide issue? Yeah?
So staff and inspections department and others are, I believe, happy to provide a report if you so choose to refer to staff to report, provide a report. They said they could be here at the next meeting with that information. And I let Alder Weary know that today, and I believe he was okay with that. So I'm fully supportive of referring it to staff, and we can have them present at the next meeting.
Motion to refer to staff.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Okay. Number 7, District 3 Alderman William Morgan and District 5 Alderman Craig Stevens request staff to pursue a nuisance deer permit from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources at no cost to allow for the taking of white-tailed deer in compliance with the permit. Alder, would you like to speak on it?
Yes, for the other committee members that weren't present, I held a meeting in July. I put it out on the Facebook for people in the Preble Park District to attend to discuss nuisance deer. And we had 35 constituents from that area show up. We also had Dan from the head of the park department, Deutschreich, and we had representatives from the DNR and the wildlife sanctuary there. And at least pretty much it was 34 of the 35 were definitely complaining about the deer population there. I personally have seen at times well over 13, 15 deer at a time in certain areas. In the discussion, we found out that 3 of our neighbors in that area have contacted Lyme disease, and it's a very painful thing. It'll continue with them for who knows long. Now I just got another email yesterday. There's 2 people in the neighborhood are suffering from anaplasmosis, which is another tick-related borne disease in that area. We have a lady here today that is a citizen of that area that would like to talk possibly about it. She can explain. The one thing I have seen people complain, some people like to feed the deer and keep them in the area, but they don't realize that, in the last year or so, we've actually had complaints 2 or 3 times about coyotes there also. If they're going to keep putting food out there and we're going to have these wild animals, we're going to have more people and more animals from the nature coming in and feeding on that. I know one woman said she was out on her deck, saw her kids playing in one corner and looked over and there was coyotes sitting staring at her kids. So this is something I think is very important. And if Ms. Mavis would like to speak, I'd like to request we open the floor for her to speak.
Motion open the floor?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Well, she came all this way, I don't know, maybe we...
Who's send me back? Hi, all. Mallory Mavis. I live at 480 Harvest Road in the city of Green Bay. I am in the Preble Park neighborhood district. I have had significant issues with deer, obviously, in the neighborhood, primarily in my backyard. At any time, I have anywhere from 7 to 14 deer. They bed down in the backyard. I was treated with late Lyme's disease. For years I'd been going to my doctor saying, can I please have Lyme's test, whatever. I had about 14 different symptoms. So severe as like heart palpitations, ocular migraines, night sweats, you name it. I had hair loss, I had all kinds of stuff. And finally I was diagnosed in February. I saw an infectious disease doctor because it was so severe, and I was on antibiotics 4 months because I had it so long term. I now suffer from like joint issues, and it definitely affects me. Things have gotten, I think, worse in the last couple of years, last 2 to 3 years. I have replaced all my landscape plants 3 times that are actually deer-resistant plants. The deer are eating the deer-resistant plants. I've had 2 hydrangea trees get damaged. My front cedar tree that's about 8 feet tall is, eaten all the way up 5 feet. I have done the liquid fence. I've done suet cakes with Irish Spring soap granulated on there. I've used the pest granules to try and get rid of them as far as like any animals like deer, rabbits eating any kind of your plants. So I'm trying to implement obviously deterrents and stuff like that, and that's not even working. It's gotten so bad that the waste is so thick in my backyard from the deer that my dogs are now eating it, and they have gotten parasitic infections and needed to be on antibiotics, and it cost me a couple $100 that way. Just to go get the Lyme-related test for myself was about $884. That is not including 2 brain MRIs, neck MRI, an EKG, all these different tests that I've had to run to try and figure out what was wrong with me associated to this Lyme-related illness. In addition to that, my kids go out and play. We keep our grass short. And I should be clear, the area in which I live, I don't have woods around me. I am bordered by other properties and the woods is surrounding them. But the deer come into the yard, they bed down, they drop the ticks. Those are then carried out by other small rodents. My son goes out to play just with his squirt guns, and he comes back in, and I pulled 4 ticks off of him July 27th. And we had to then call his pediatrician to then get him treated for Lyme's disease as a preventative measure because it's the small, little, like nymph larva size that actually carry the tick-borne illnesses, anaplasmosis, Ehrlichia, Bartonella, all those things, and that's how that's spread, and they become quite a problem. We have treated our yard. We've professionally treated our yard. It has gotten so insanely expensive. We put tick tubes all over. We have literally tried everything, and we are out thousands of dollars with it. I'm concerned because even if you've had Lyme's disease or a tick-related illness, you can get it again just by a simple bite. And my son, this is not the first time we pulled ticks off of him. I literally am paranoid because I spray my kids. I apply all this stuff. I check them over, their hair, everything before we come back inside because I just don't want them to do it. I treat my dogs with a tick preventative pill once a month just to help regulate the issue. So it is a lot. Thank you for hearing this.
Thank
I know you've sent me pictures of those ticks and all that too. I know.
I have photographs if you want to take a look at them.
I've seen them myself.
They're literally like a speck, and you have to zoom in on the photo to actually see that it is a tick. I saw one like crawling across my kid's head, and I had to take a photograph of it and zoom in on it, and then I take those like rollers, you know, like lint rollers or whatever, you know, and that's what they get stuck to. But the concern is the contact's already been made. A tick that's actually like affixed to you typically takes 24 to 48 hours to transfer potential, you know, it's a zoonotic disease. They're carrying stuff from rodents and other things to a human. And so that's part of the issue. But these smaller ones, they're so deadly. I mean, they're carrying all this stuff, and you often don't know what you have until it's too late.
If I could ask, some people I know that are in the forum about this have mentioned that you're gonna have ticks everywhere. In any of your research you've done, did deer ticks show up without having deer? Is that a possibility?
Funny. So basically, any animal can carry it on in. But I do believe that these are from the deer coming in and bedding down and laying down. The test that I did was I took a 5x5 like white piece of fabric on a pole, and I ran it through the grass, and that's how you determine if you have a tick issue, and I pulled hundreds. It was gross. It was absolutely gross. It made my skin crawl. I have photographs if you guys want to see it. And that's when I started ordering stuff, and we started treating the yard with permethrin and Biofrin. You can hook it up to your hose and spray it on. The tick tubes, those tick tubes are like 20 bucks a pop. The idea is that there's permethrin in there with cotton. The rodents come, whether they're squirrels or rats or mice or whatever, and they grab it and then they bring it back to their nest, and they're treating essentially the ticks that are carried by them and the deer and whatever else. But then, like I said, we ended up having our yard professionally treated, and I check it so often to make sure that we don't have this issue. But just the other night, it was like 2 nights ago, my backyard cam went off, and there's like this 6-point buck just eating right outside my window at my beautiful hanging basket I just got, and I'm just kind of like, I can't keep up with these things. They're habituated. They are not afraid of people. I have to go out there with the hose and spray them. They approach people, and there's nothing to combat or call the herd. You have does dropping fawns left and right, twin fawns every season, but Preble Park is exempt from the deer management program. So, like he said, you might get some coyotes coming from the industrial park, but they're, you know, the deer population is speeding up, and they took down an injured one on Wildwood in February, and that was the last time. But again, they're either getting hit by cars, or they're spreading all this tick-borne illness around because of these ticks and nuisance issues, and just there's not enough food source for them in this small area.
Do you know, are many people in the area feeding them?
There's gotta be some. I know one neighbor told me that someone's putting salt licks out even.
It is illegal to feed wildlife in the city of Green Bay,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right.
And a lot of these complaints would come to me professionally, and I would explain to them that if you have an address where someone is feeding wildlife, I'm happy to address that. But, you know, like I said, this is affecting me and my family personally,
Right.
financially. Well, we love where we live, but it's just, and my own neighbors, they've had tick-borne illnesses. Our babysitter who lives on Polaris, the next street over, tick-borne illness too. I mean, this is terrible. I mean, you should be able to go play out in your backyard without having to, you know, kids are gonna roll around in the grass, and our grass is short. There's not a woods around me, but down the way, they come.
So you haven't been able to catch anybody feeding in the neighborhood?
No one wants to come forward. I think there was one person that said, why feed the deer? But unfortunately, they're in the Preble Park neighborhood where it's, I think, maybe more trafficked, and the properties are right on top of one another, and the deer don't come there as often. And they're like, well, we don't have a deer problem. I'm like, oh, come over to my backyard, come check it out. Especially in spring, the amount of waste that's there after the snow has melted and trying to get through, it's gross. I was out there with a shovel trying to clean it all up so my dogs wouldn't eat it and get sick again. So.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I know more than I wanted to know.
Yeah, tell me what.
Make a motion to close the floor?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to say, I know myself, the last time, and it's in spring when I see them the most too, is when I'm going to Preble High School to coach my kids. I stopped one time at Wesley, and it wasn't Sandy. Anyway, at that time, that day, there were 13, I counted, and I was able to walk 10 feet from them, and they didn't move. They just stared at me. I finally turned and went back to my car because I didn't want one of them to start coming at me. But also, I'd like to say our attorney has done a little research, and there's a program in West Dallas, Wisconsin, that we may look into modeling something similar to theirs. So that's part of the reason we made this request to look into doing this. I think, I know at least 5 people have said they have a tick-borne disease, and she's probably heard more. I didn't know about the one on Polaris, I don't believe. So it's something that's a health hazard that we need to consider. It's not just having neat little creatures walking through our neighbors' yards.
Attorney, do you have any
It's a major,
comments?
deer
Yeah,
can be
so
a
just a
major,
couple
major
points of
problem.
clarification. We
Car
believe both
accident.
communications are on for approval. The first one that we're talking about now, number 7, is a nuisance deer permit. That's no cost to the city from the Department of Natural Resources. That's going to require either the landowner, that person themselves, or allowing another person, either which would have to be a hunter. And when I say hunter, I mean someone that should be hunting or has a different license with the DNR. There's a threshold for that, for getting them a permit. And it might be 10 deer, it might be 20 deer, 30 deer. I don't think that DNR's, if they were part of the meeting, expressed any sort of quantifiable number. But again, no cost, but the city will have to issue those permits under our nuisance permit. We would issue a permit to a person to take a deer at a property, take another deer, whatever that process might be, but we have to have people who are willing to hunt on their property or to allow other people to hunt on their property that ask for those permits. So the city or city staff aren't going to be doing the hunting, just for clarification on the DNR, related to the DNR permit.
Was there interest at the meeting of residents willing to do so?
No one we didn't discuss it at the
Oh, okay.
meeting, but I've had neighbors come up and that knew about this, and they asked me how they can get a permit because they'd be interested in it.
A lot of apartments received one call from an individual interested to know when the timing of it would be,
Okay.
so. that's
Can I
what-
just
I have a question.
interject? I don't know if you have to
I have a
open the floor
question.
or not.
You can speak on your professional.
Okay.
But I have a
Professional.
question. This nuisance permit, is it citywide, or can we just do a certain area?
It would just be issued to the city. I don't necessarily think they would limit it to a specific area. I think the reason for it is sort of identified, but we're not going to have like a small quadrant or anything like that. It's going to be probably the northeast area of Green Bay, I would guess, or at least that's what we would ask for. And they're more concerned about the number. Like they might give us an initial permit for 20, maybe could go back and ask for more, whatever it would be. They write it for the specific number.
And whoever is shooting the deer, it's their deer, or does the deer go to the
Yes.
city, or?
No, it's a person who takes it.
With these permits, it would be theirs, yes.
Okay, that's fine. Just curious.
Officer?
Yeah, so I know when we were at the meeting that was held end of June, there was about 5 people that were interested in actually hunting. I know like one of them was like an attorney in the area. The other one was actually like our backyard neighbor. As long as you're, there has to be 50 yards between a neighboring building. We would get permission with all the neighbors to actually take down some of these problematic deer. The idea was to take down some of the does because they're the ones producing so many of these these fawns every single year. So that wasn't a concern. One of the other things that was brought up with this tick-borne illness is that you have UWGB students, after you do a harvest, you lay down tarps and these ticks are supposed to crawl off once the carcass, you harvest it, and they fall off the carcass, and then you do like a tick study. One of my neighbors is a retired professor for UWGB, and they have students that are willing to do this sort of thing to determine if there is a tick-related illness. I know I called the health department about a month ago. I've never heard back from them as far as that goes. I know one of my other neighbors, her husband had a tick-related illness. They got in touch and they said, yeah, the tick-borne illness is on the rise. But it would help gauge how bad the area is and how infested they are.
I think you should take a couple bucks too. Come on, not be,
No,
I'm just all about
no.
reducing numbers.
With the nuisance permit, they cannot kill a buck. It has to be does.
really?
I
Yeah,
didn't
I
know
think
that.
the DNR will specify that it's for antlers.
Remember
this year.
the-
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
talked
goal
about
they
that.
say is for antlerless deer, just
Yeah.
because it helps reduce the population.
Yeah, I know they, I thought they said it as a recommendation,
A
they
recommendation, but
recommend.
it's not always mandatory.
Right.
But they encourage it just because of the population issue.
Yes. People can hunt, too, just as a reminder, in some of these
Right.
areas, people can hunt in the city with a permit if their land meets the requirements with a crossbow, bow. There is permissible hunting in the city, I don't know that a lot of people take advantage of it.
Yes.
You can't discharge a firearm, and that's the issue.
Right.
Or
This-
a lot of times if you do harvest a deer, sometimes they travel and they might go into a neighboring property, that's part of the issue. But I think some of these like I said, we're all in agreement, all our neighbors, and there's about 6 of us who are all like, yeah, it's an issue, and we're willing to do what we need to do to help alleviate this problem.
So this would allow bow hunting, crossbow hunting, and they'd have to follow DNR rules like being in a tree stand or an elevated place so that if they miss or it goes through the deer,
Oh,
it would go
sure.
right in the ground.
Right,
Yeah.
yes,
There's several
right.
rules that we'd have to follow that are DNR rules.
Everybody on the roof.
Chapter 26 has an exception for that prohibition on firearms, but I think the recommendation probably would be to specify in that permit that we would stick to bows. But chapter 26, as it's drafted, it has an exception for these types of permits to use firearms.
I believe Mr. Lieutenant
We will
Mahoney
save
has
that for the professionals.
several friends too that would be love to join this.
I was gonna say, how do you
It's
sign
about
up
practice,
for
like
properties that are available?
Yeah,
Not even the woods, just right off our deck.
I'd make a recommendation to refer this to staff to.
Second?
refer to staff or to the council?
Staff first,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah, it's a referral to staff that council have to approve on Tuesday.
Good.
Yep.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I did.
Yep.
Oh, you did? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes
I'm just
have it.
kidding.
This was.
Ready?
Yes.
Number 8, District 3 Alderman William Morgan and District 5 Alderman Craig Stevens request staff to pursue a contract with the United States Department of Agriculture for sharpshooting service to assist with reducing the white-tailed deer population in the northeast areas of the city of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Contract costs to be paid by contingency in 2023 or budgeted in 2024.
So this is a follow-up. I think we've done a little bit of initial investigation with the Department of Agriculture on this. I did contact other municipalities. West Bend is an example that's using a contract for sharpshooting services, maybe on an annual basis in their community, or at least they used it for several years to get the population manageable or down to a manageable perspective. So this is a service that we know is offered by the USDA. We had some communications. The refer to staff would be to, or if you choose to refer this to staff, we would pursue the Department of Agriculture. If they could, would engage in a contract with us, how much it would cost, the time frame. West Bend's example was $10,000 or $15,000 for the year that they gave me for services. Again, I don't know the full scope of services, but a sharpshooter is, in fact, what you would assume. It's services provided by professionals through Department of Agriculture, I think Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, APHIS branch, to take out some estimated number of deer in an area where they would set up a controlled process. And then, in that regard, I think West Bend said that they had a contract set up with a processor, and then the meat got donated to a food pantry. So that's what I know about that, that's the research that I've done. Like I said, refer to staff would sort of send us on our way to pursuing the same. But obviously, this is the, one of the tools that has a cost attached to it.
Any questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to refer to staff.
Go ahead.
Motion to refer to staff.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's have it. Informational liquor violation report.
I wanted to let the committee know, we discovered there was an error in our IT department. It wasn't pulling the data from our reports. So I was told there were no violations, even though we personally know there were some violations. We're trying to get that fixed. So for this report, there's no violations. But in the future, I'm probably going to give you a violation report from July all the way current. So as of now, according to the reports, there's no violations, but hopefully within the next meeting or two, we'll figure out the quirk, and then we could go back to our data from earlier this summer and give you a little more accurate report of what happened.
Thank you. Parks licensing report, please.
Yes, thank you. So the city of Green Bay has granted 6 licenses that have not yet been issued. And the city has 3 pending liquor license applications. They have been filed but not yet voted on by council. And we do not have any available liquor licenses at this time.
Thank you. Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive it and place it on file.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Motion to adjourn it.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you.
Recording stopped.